so much, Kylie, for that welcome. Good morning, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. I will start off with a few words about Collegian. I don't know if you know Collegian, it's the ACN's journal. If you're not aware of it, please look it up on the website. It's a journal that covers a whole breadth of issues, topics, research papers, of course, in the field of nursing practice. It's a high-quality journal with strong impact factors. So if you're not aware of it, please look it up. Also, we'll be putting a call out for editors to join our team very soon. So if that's something you might be interested in, please come along and have a chat to me today about that. And of course, we're always looking for reviewers for our papers as well. So if you're interested in that opportunity, please do come and have a chat as well. So obviously publishing is really important. It's a way of getting our information, our findings of research, of policy work out to the wider public and to key, obviously into clinical practice and to key members of policy. But before we can publish, of course, we need research funding in order to be able to fund our pieces of research to generate the findings and lead on to publications. And so what I'm going to talk about this morning is a bit about the value and the impact of research in nursing, obviously then leading on to publications. And I agree with Alison that we are at a very critical point in time in order to be able to move forward in this space. So in the past 30 years, the profession of nursing in Australia has made remarkable progress. We've embraced university-based education, developed innovative postgraduate curricula, engaged in clinical academic partnerships to build research and clinical scholarship, and we've developed and grown advanced clinical pathways, including most notably the role of the nurse practitioner. And of course, the ACN has grown and flourished as a voice for nursing at a national level. During this time, nursing, of course, has also faced a number of challenges. And as we take stock of our place in history, it's clear that our future has never been so promising, but also so critical. It's important to imagine what's possible, to build on our capabilities, and strategically map a direction. A scan of the internal and external environments reveals a number of pressure points and policy drivers. So we know that nurses and midwives constitute around 57% of registered health professionals. And in Australia, there are close to 480,000 nurses and midwives serving our communities. We're the frontline workers in hospitals and communities, and we're well positioned to lead research addressing efficacy of clinical and health system innovations. Nurses work across all aspects of healthcare delivery, across all age groups and from metropolitan to rural and remote areas, making their reach and potential impact substantial. To achieve meaningful and sustained impacts on healthcare outcomes, greater engagement with and investment in nursing-led research is needed. Nursing interventions are high volume and significantly contribute to both costs and patient outcomes, so the need for a strong evidence base is clear. And although Australia's nurses are ideally placed to provide solutions to address current health service inefficiencies, we are underrepresented as recipients of research grant funding and therefore also in the publication sphere as well. Nurses globally have a long record of delivering high-quality clinical research that improves care and outcomes. An analysis of 4 landmark nursing-led studies in the United States illustrates the value-adding potential of nurse-led research. For every grant dollar, the return on investment ranged from $202 to $1,206. And in Australia, investment in nursing research also pays dividends for healthcare costs and population and health systems outcome. And we need a bit more mapping in order to work out the true impact of nursing research in Australia. But however, as the largest health workforce, we're underrepresented as recipients of research funding. Healthcare is a $181 billion industry in Australia, and care based on high-quality evidence is essential to the health of the nation. Clinical trials and clinician researchers play a vital role in improving the healthcare system to benefit consumers, society, and the economy. But an analysis of research funding reveals profound inequity in the distribution of funds. So, for example, of the 200 National Health and Medical Research Council grants, the NHMRC, funded to clinical trials networks between 2004 and 2014, only 9, that's 5%, involved nursing and midwifery-specific research. In 2020, the NHMRC Investigator Grants Scheme saw only 7 of 238 grants, that's 3%, awarded to nursing. And only 1 of the 2020 postgraduate scholarships was awarded to nursing. That was 1.6% of the scholarships awarded. And notably, of all of the NHMRC 2020 grant round applications, only 5 of 673 successful applications, that's 0.74%, were nursing or midwifery focused. And only 30 of the 5,221 total applications, that's 0.57%, identified nursing or midwifery as a primary field of research. So what are some of the key issues and how can we address these? At the heart of the issue, of course, is the number of applications we're submitting for funding, as well as the number that are being awarded to nurses. The figures likely reflect gender disparities in the ability to submit research grants, as well as grant outcomes. We are a female-dominated profession. The NHMRC grant success rate for mid-career women is 6.5%, compared with 10.9% for men. And in 2021, women received 23% fewer NHMRC grants and were awarded $95 million less in funding compared to men. Employment structures affect the ability to lead research and to publish, and that improve the healthcare system. Nurses rarely have the opportunity for time or funding to support research-related activity, whereas both time and funding are built into the employment contracts of many of our medical colleagues. Grant funding criteria have also inhibited nurses' opportunities to apply for funding. For example, in the 2020 Medical Research Foundation Fund Clinicians Research around the MRFF, substantial amount of funding put into that stream of funding. It required chief investigators to be clinician researchers, which were defined as health professionals who practiced in a clinical capacity. Yet we know historically that nurses have had to choose between a clinical or an academic career. Clinical nurses and midwives typically have positions without any included seconded or protected research time, and academic nurses and those employed by health sectors as independent researchers rarely deliver direct clinical care. So until very recently, the narrow definition of clinician research excluded many nurses from applying for this very important funding stream. But on to some good news. Following the announcement of the 2020 grant round, a number of us advocated for change to the definition of clinician researcher to ensure inclusivity for nurses. The definitions under the latest scheme have addressed this, with the 2022 Clinician Researchers Funding Round defining a clinician researcher as a researcher that has current professional registration with the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency. So this now supports nurses working across a range of settings, be that academic, clinical, or a combination of the two, to be able to apply for this source of funding. Another piece of good news is that the Australasian Nursing and Midwifery Clinical Trials Network, a consortium of nursing and midwifery academics across Australia and New Zealand, was set up to support nurses and midwives to undertake high-quality research. And if you've not heard of that network, I encourage you to go and have a look at the website. So they're setting up a number of resources, training and mentorship schemes as well to support nurses and midwives to build their research capability and capacity and to be able to apply for funding. Another piece of good news is that now through the MRFF, there is now a stream that's exclusively for research led by a nurse or a midwife. And this is an important and welcome first step towards equity for nursing and midwifery researchers. But nevertheless, the issue is broader than the grant scheme eligibility. The lack of protected time for clinicians restricts their ability to write grant applications, and in the event of winning a grant, presents concerns around work-life balance for those undertaking both research and clinical work. A welcome development recently was the NHMRC announcement of the Gender Equity Strategy 2022 to 2025. The vision is a gender diverse and inclusive health and medical research workforce to take advantage of the full range of talent needed to build a healthy Australia, and is based on the principles that gender equity strengthens the health and medical research workforce, and that we all benefit from research environments that are safe, respectful and inclusive. Controversially, of course, the NHMRC introduced new special measures under the Sex Discrimination Act 1984 to address systemic disadvantage faced by female and non-binary applicants to its investigator grant scheme. The NHMRC is introducing an intervention for the leadership category to include equal numbers of grants awarded to women and men. So where to from here? Well, engaging the great potential of the nursing workforce requires building research capacity and capability within the workforce. For example, supporting early and mid-career research fellowships in proportional numbers to those that we see available across other disciplines, and by strengthening research training. It's important that we boost the whole nursing workforce and integrate research as part of our roles, not simply transform clinicians into researchers. This will only exacerbate the current binary approach that we see today and risks further impacting the nursing shortage. The growth we need to see in nursing research in Australia should be led by nurses working in clinical practice, policy and academia, but especially clinical practice. We need action more broadly to ensure transdisciplinary policies and initiatives for research training, funding, and systems to support nurses to engage in research. So specifically for nurses, strategies are needed to develop research skills by further improving the teaching and training of research and evidence-based practice in our undergraduate and postgraduate programs, by bolstering doctoral and postdoctoral research training opportunities for nurses. There are very few doctoral scholarships, and postdoc scholarships are as rare as hen's teeth in the field of nursing. We need to improve the quality of nursing research outputs, and we need to increase resources available through embedding career frameworks for nurses to be able to engage with and undertake research that's clinically embedded, whether or not they undertake direct clinical work. Nurse-led innovations need to be funded to support evaluation so that we know what impact these have made on health outcomes. And importantly, funding opportunities need to be sustainable, equitable, efficient, and responsive to clinical needs. Awareness of the inequalities in research funding across gender and discipline divides needs to be kept front and centre. I look forward to seeing how the recent changes may begin to bridge these divides. Nurses make up the majority of Australia's regulated healthcare workforce, and we should be key players in the design, development and leadership of clinical research. Support to develop our future research leaders is a sound economic investment. So we've made progress in building research capacity, but the need for a critical mass of researchers with competitive track records who can provide research leadership remains a high priority. I would argue that we haven't yet got that critical mass needed, and that goal is really under threat. In addition to investment, and to be even more effective with what we currently have, we need to engage with health policy researchers and health economists to fully address the expectations related to knowledge transfer. So in conclusion, I would say that nursing in Australia have a cadre of strong researchers with developing and established track records. We have a history of pragmatic action, and we value collaboration. We need to build as quickly but as sustainably as possible through support to develop programmatic research and support to both lead and engage in multidisciplinary research. As we face the future, our profession is in a highly strategic position. Our research matters. We pride ourselves on promoting and engaging in applied clinical and socially relevant research. It's down to us as a collective to ensure that everyone is aware of the value and the potential of nursing-led research and our ability to make a substantial impact on the health and well-being of individuals, families and communities across Australia. Thank you.